Alright, good morning. I've been playing around with the music levels, so let me know if it's too loud, too high, whatever. I just sent through a link to that start stream thing in chat. What I will say is be aware in VS Code it doesn't run in the integrated console. You need to do it in the raw PowerShell one. You can tell it's going to work or not because you get syntax highlighting in the one that works. So, anyway, what are we doing today? So, this morning the TechSnips website went live as far as we're now taking subscriptions. That is purely coincidence for what we're working on this morning. I'm going to be doing a little bit of automation on the contributors board, which looks a little something like this. So I've put my hand up to keep track of the votes for topics here in the subscriber requests list. And if I show you how things come through, there is a content request button up the top of the TechSnips website. With a form down here for categories. And basically, if someone requests a category, I'm going through in here and adding a vote. So if we look at Linux, you can see there's been 3 requests for this, and at the moment I'm currently incrementing this number manually, and I'm incrementing this description manually, and keeping a track of the ranking and sorting everything. Naturally that's slow and boring and whatever. So I want to use PowerShell to sort of take some of that off my hands. So if you can head over to this content request form and fill this out for what you want to see. 1, it'll let us know what you want to see on TechSnips, and 2, it'll give me some data to play with this morning. As far as how we're going to be doing this, I've done some legwork already. We're going to be using a module called Trellops to interface with Trello, and I'm using Credential Manager simply to store my API key and access token, and that's mainly so that I don't expose it on stream, because it's at least the key you can't reset, which is why I'm not going to this URL here, because you'd see my key and then I couldn't change it. So if you do want to follow along, you're going to need your own Trello API key, which you can get there. And the Trellops repo has instructions on how to get the rest. So yeah, I'm using stored credentials for my access tokens, and then I'm just putting them into a hash table that Trellops is expecting. And the other thing I found out when playing with this is PowerShell defaults to TLS 1.0, and that's not going to work with Trello. It needs to be 1.2. And handily, this line here will get PowerShell using 1.2, which is handy. So I'm pretty no, I closed and reopened code. So if I rerun all of this, we should be good to go. So I've written down some high level notes for how I want to chunk through this task. And it's very possible, despite this being called a one-day script, that we don't finish it in one day, in which case part 2 will be next stream. But the high level is I want to get the right board, get the list from that board, get the cards from the right list, and the first thing I want to try and do is sort the cards based on the numbers, and hopefully that's hopefully that works. Yeah, I don't run into it too often, but this is in my profile, so maybe that's why I don't notice it. Or rather, it's in my profile at work, which is probably why I don't notice it very often. So, let's have a look at Trellops and what sort of commands we've got in there. So we've got all the stuff you'd expect. We can get boards, cards, lists, labels, create new ones, remove them. So we've got a lot to work with. So, first thing we want to do is get the Trello board. Give it the token, and let's start by getting all of them. So what we'll see in here, and they might not be listed as such, but I've got a couple of test boards for various things, but the one we're after is this. So let's get it by name. I think we can do that. Cool, so we've got our board, and just making sure contributor content, I know that's right, but let's go over here and double check. Cool. Yeah, I left VMware and PowerShell installed. Keep forgetting to uninstall that. Okay, so next we need to get the lists. And I'll go out on a limb and say there's probably a Trello lists. Right. So, boards. So, as you can see, there's lists here for a lot. Snip IGA rejected, held, and these look like they're in the same order as they come on the board itself. Can we do name again? Cool. And I'm assuming it's the same workflow for cards. Give it the token. Give it the ID. I'm assuming that's the ID of the list. Let's try it. No. So that's probably the ID of the board, because I saw a list thing in here. Let's look at the help. So they're all wanting an ID. That's helpful. Okay. Let's try giving it the board ID and the list. We didn't get an error that time. And we got the cards. I'm fairly certain that's 19, sounds about right. 19, cool. Okay, so now we're going to have to sort the cards, and that's, I mean, from a terminal perspective, that's going to be as simple as just sorting them. Then we need to figure out how to rearrange them. Just in case, before we start changing things, I'm going to copy this list. Oh no, there it goes, cool. For a moment there I thought it was just going to create a list and not move the cards over. So, just in case we muck anything up, we've got a backup. And to be extra sure, let's grab a copy of everything as JSON, just to be sure. Cool. So now, let's look at the commands we've got again. Now, it occurs to me, now that we're this far in, that there's no set commands here. Which might be a bit of an issue. So where I'm going with my thinking at the moment is, just from looking at the names, I don't see a way of rearranging the list. Looking at what I have available, so it might be possible that we can contribute some more functions to Trellops and expand the uses on the API. That might be something we can do in another live stream. For today, I'm thinking maybe what we do is create a new list and basically add a copy of each card. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Although removing the card makes me nervous. What I'm wondering is if we do like what I did with the backup and basically create a new copy of everything on a new list and then get rid of the old list once we've verified that everything's correct. But that isn't ideal. Let's give it a try. I've got a backup. What's the worst that can happen? So, the first thing we're going to need is a new list. And just to be extra sure, I'm going to create a new board just to be safe. And sure, let's use that background. Oh, my typing. Whoops. So, let's get our new board. Make sure that bit works. Cool. And let's create a new Trello list on it. I'll wait for PowerShell to catch up so we get some IntelliSense on this. Cool. Let's borrow the name from over there. So in theory, we should now have our list. Cool. So, just to make sure we can actually do the sorting properly, let's jumble these up a bit and put you up there, you down here. Come on. You right up the top above that one. And let's grab Linux and move it all the way down the bottom. Right, so that's sufficiently jumbled up. Let's see if our list of cards shows that. So I see Linux right down the bottom, followed by Microsoft Office, Linux Office. We should see Autodesk next. Autodesk, cool. So our list of cards is coming back in whatever jumbled order it is on the board. So in theory, if we sort those, on probably name, although so that's going to be a string, which isn't always the best. I just thought of how I need to sort out my other issue, which was keeping these at the top, which is that I'm going to mark these as 0. So, sorry, to explain what this one is, this was someone requesting a specific scenario rather than just a category. So I've created a card that could be dragged off directly and start recording rather than being inspiration for a recording. So they're more in line with these available snip ideas than large topics like learning PowerShell. And I want those to be at the top because they're the ones that I want contributors to, grab as soon as they feel able to do them. So I need to turn that into an integer. And since I've made that change, I'll also grab the cards again. What I don't know is the best way of adding a sortable key to each of these. Let's not do it like that though, that's going to be incredibly slow. So that's not going to work for every card, because some cards won't have an integer at the front, like that one. In fact, what was that card? So the one that's complaining about well, that's helped me find one of my own issues, which was one I forgot to put a space in the title of. There we go. Just when that wasn't working, right, Hyper-V's there and it didn't get a sort key. So that's going to need to be in a try-catch block. To catch that. And if it comes up with an error, the sort key can be massive. In fact, sure, let's make it the maximum possible size. So, what am I going to do with this sort key? Right. Create an object which just contains a sort key. And the card. So the card lives inside this object as the original card object, in theory. But we've also got a sort key object we can sort on. Or a sort key integer we can sort on. And the reason I went to that issue for a sort key is so that we have an integer. So that we have a number representation for that number at the start of the title rather than a string, so that the sorting works in a predictable way. So, in theory, we've got our sortable cards now. sort on sort key. Right, except that sort of want that to be the other way around. So I'm looking at the sort key. This 3 means that it's got 3 votes. That 0 means that it's the one here that I want to be at the top. Which means I've sort of put this backwards. I want... Well, for starters, I want to sort the other way, but I want the 0 to also be at the top, which means any with an error are going to end up at the top as well if I do that. Well, no. And sorry, this is where you hear my random train of thought out loud. Because I'm going to have some known values, which is the 0 and the max integer. So I can do a little something like this. And none of this is efficient. So basically what I'm doing is when I'm sorting my cards, I don't want to see anywhere the sort key is 0, because I'm manually going to put those at the top. And I don't want to see any that have the maximum integer value, because those are the ones that error it out up here, meaning I should probably look at them manually anyway. And then we'll sort them descending, meaning that it should go 3, 2, 1, or however many votes we've got. So let's give that a shot. Cool, 3, 2, and all of the ones. Awesome. So, as far as our new list goes, we're going to need to do it in 3 steps. So before we've even got to that point, we want all of the ones that equal 0. This probably isn't going to take pipeline input. Sorry, that's weirding me out. I never write where with a capital letter. Right, so part of this equation is going to be this label. However, I've had some issues getting these to work in the past, so I'm not going to worry about them yet. I will worry about them soon, but not yet. So, ID, name. Given that this doesn't... This is going to be messy because, well, not messy, but it's not going to be as complete as I had hoped it to be, because we're not going to be able to create the new card with any comments against it, which is fine. I was just using the comments as a sort of auditing thing anyway, because really all I need is the title, the name, and the description. So sure, let's not let that stop us at the moment then. I have to assume that ID, there's no examples here, is there? No. I have to assume that ID is the ID of the list. Yeah, well, on the first Friday of every month is PS Tweet Chat as well, and I get up at 5 AM for that, so it's part of the reality of being in New Zealand, I guess. Hang on. Name. PS Tweet Chat. Let's see if I can. So it's facilitated by Jeff Hicks. But yeah, first, in fact, let's see if we've got. There we go. So, first Friday of the month, 1 PM Eastern. So the next one's 6th of July. And yeah, bunch of people jump in. Jeff Hicks hangs around. Bunch of other people. Yeah, I am silly enough to get up at 5 AM for that until daylight savings kicks in, at which stage it is a more reasonable 7 AM for me. So in theory, on my new board, or on my new list, this should create each of the cards. Now let's just make sure I'm using new list, which is against new board, because I really don't want to do this against the live one. Didn't get any errors, so if we head over to this one, we've got that. And now let's do the same thing here. So this is just our one where we've got none of those, and while we're at it, in fact, let's copy this one. Then we want any where we've got the max int value. So while that's running, we head over here. And we've got all of our cards in the correct order. 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. Cool. And in theory, they've all got descriptions. Right. So I know I've got these here, but one thing I want to do first is update the description. And this probably needs to happen before we're... In fact, that probably needs to happen all the way up here. Let's grab a copy of our description. Right. So I don't want to touch the description if it's one of our two states we don't want to touch, which is those. So I'm thinking this bit through. I can put this in at any time, because I know how many votes it has. But until I have every vote, I don't know what the rankings are. And going forward, I'm not sure if I care what the rankings are, because that's explicit in where it is positioned in the list. So the question is, can I edit that directly? Yes, I can. Which means I can do a little something like this. I think. So in theory, I'm just now realizing I've never done this when I've had my string in a variable, but that operator there should replace the 0 here with my sort key, and then just to make things more grammatically correct, if we've got 2 votes, I'll change vote to votes. I hope that works. So let's go ahead and clear that list out. And rerun all of this and see if it works. So that one there maintains the description that it had. And I know that this one's been updated because it doesn't have the and is currently ranked blah at the end of it. So 3 votes, 3 vote. Name is null on what? Do we have any others like that? We ended up with all the cards. Where is that coming from? Well, for starters, that wasn't working. Let's get that fixed. That's probably my own dumb mistake, because replace doesn't work the way I think it works. Ah, no, because I'm not reassigning it. I imagine that would fix that. Let's empty this out and try it again. Clicking on the wrong things. Let's grab our list. Let's grab our cards again. Just to keep everything fresh. In fact, let's... Oh, I did get rid of the list, okay. So we'll recreate the list, do all of that, get down to here. Right. No errors that time. Everything's in the right order. And it says votes. Cool. So at least that part's working. Now I mentioned I'm not going to worry about labels right away. I think this is the point where I'm going to worry about labels. And hope that they work. Need to figure out what's slowing down my IntelliSense here, because this is getting a bit painful. Come on. Okay. So, this should give me all the TechSnips labels. What's asking me for a message? Well, one, that's going to help, but still. It's better, jeez. helps if I use the same name. Alright, so here is all of our labels. The main one I'm worried about is this one, but we could be using any of them. So let's see if we can recreate them on the new board and hopefully reference them by name. IntelliSense again. Right, so we're going to need a name and a color. Oops, if I can spell. And so looking back at this, we should just have a name and a color. And suppressing my urge to put a U in the word color. This one's taking a little bit of time. Is it working? It doesn't look like it. Alright. So it errored out there because we had a random label with no color assigned to it. But also I think before it got to that point it just wasn't working, but we'll humor it regardless. So if the color's not an empty string or it's not null, I'm not sure which it is, but sure, go ahead and create it, and let's make sure. I'm just going to delete all the existing ones just in case that's what's causing an issue, but somehow I don't think it is. Okay, let's try creating these labels again. Label, 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 cool. So it says it's finished. I'm definitely doing it on the new board. However, I don't see any labels. Let's jump over here and see if I've accidentally created a ton of new labels here. It's looking good so far. There's our random one with no color down there. No, that's looking good to me. Okay, so rather than trying to keep going with something that isn't working quite 100%, what I'm going to do is I feel like we need some more functionality out of the Trellops module, and since we're an invested party and wanting to use it, we should probably contribute some code to it. So I think that will be the topic for my next stream. I want to make some notes about the things we need to get working or add to that for our own selfish benefit. So, let's do these as strings so they come out nice and bright. First we need labels working. Let's use some better English working labels. As far as creating and assigning, I happen to know that assigning doesn't work because I had some major issues with it when I used Trellops for a TechSnips demo. So I really want to get this one going. We also need a bunch of set commands. For updating cards, lists, etc. Because it would be really great if we could not have to delete and recreate cards and lists. But if we are recreating lists, it'd be great to get comments in there, even if they only came up as us and not the original authors. It's still better than nothing. Is there anything else we need in there? So if we've got board, list, card, label, what was the thing I was thinking about? Right, remove also needs to be able to remove the board and the list. So at the moment there's no remove Trello list or remove Trello board. So let's add those. Right. So those are the things I want to try looking at adding to the TrelOps module. And we'll do that next Wednesday morning. Between now and then, I'll do some reading up on the Trello API and see which of these are actually supported and how easy it's going to be. But yeah, hopefully, so next stream will be adding some functionality, hopefully to TrelOps, and we'll submit a PR to Jeff. I think it's Jeff Wooters that maintains it, and my pronunciation is terrible, so sorry, Jeff. Yep, so yes, next stream we'll work on TrelOps, submit a PR at the end of that stream. Hopefully within that week that gets accepted, and then the following week we'll come back to this TechSnips automation, where hopefully we can actually get it finished. But pretty happy with what we ended up with. We did some interesting things. Most of it was a thought experiment of how to achieve what I wanted to achieve with a sort key and making a 0 appear higher on the list than another number, but yeah. And we figured out how to copy cards over to a new board and a new list. So that was fun. So thanks everyone for tuning in this morning. I will plug TechSnips again. So the site's now officially live, which means Adam's now taking credit cards to access the content. As you can see, there's a bunch of us doing videos, and I think it's been so long since I did a snip that mine aren't showing up here anymore. So the very quick plug for TechSnips is it's short form training. You use the word training carefully. They're how-to videos that cover very specific scenarios, like how to move a mailbox to a new database and Exchange using PowerShell. So it's the sort of thing where you're facing a specific issue, you Google it, a video comes up, and that video just shows you how to do that one thing rather than being a 2 or 3 or 5 hour long training course. I've got, in fact, we're on the board, we can have a look. That one. I've got a lot of videos recorded and up there at the moment. So I'm filtering this board at the moment, so I only see myself and unassigned tickets, so we don't see other people's stuff. But these are what I've got at the moment. Some of my favorites are things like creating a new DigitalOcean droplet, which is basically the result of me moving my blog over to Ghost, and behind the scenes that's running on DigitalOcean. I've done a few Veeam courses, Veeam videos, and a whole lot of parameter validation. My favorite of which is probably customizing errors. And coming up tonight, I'm going to be recording, publishing scripts to the gallery, publishing modules to the gallery, and a couple of Juniper ones, which should be fun. So yeah, if you're interested in any of that, sign up at TechSnips. I think when you sign up you get 7 days free, but don't quote me on that. I don't remember where I read that. And if there's any content you want to see on there, hit up the content request form, fill it out. I'll see it and I poke the other contributors about it in our Slack channel. So if there's something you want to see, request it. We'll do our best to focus on what you've requested. Other than that, thanks for watching. If you want to be notified about future live streams, either subscribe here on YouTube or keep an eye out on Twitter, because I try and tweet out the links early. Doesn't always happen, but you know, I do my best. The next one of these will be next Wednesday at 4 AM New Zealand time, which is, you know, sometime the previous day in the States. Yeah, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one.